Hi everyone, this is Christine from Thought for Food, and welcome to today's Google Hangout with our round one judges. We thought it would be a good idea to pull together our eminent panel of judges who will ultimately be looking at your project proposals and deciding who will be selected as the 5 finalist teams to move on in the competition, and have them share some insights and personal perspectives about what really stands out as a wow project in this competition. So I'll let them introduce themselves and also ask them, in addition to providing your name and some key biographical information, to also answer the question about why you care about food security and Thought for Food. So Karsten, maybe we'll start with you since we're next to each other.
All right, Christine, thanks very much. Welcome co-judges. Very nice to meet you. My name is Carsten Neufer. I work for Syngenta. I'm responsible for our seed care business here in Syngenta. And no, I actually do not have any background, neither in agriculture, nor in biologicals, nor in chemistry. I studied industrial engineering and then did an MBA in Chicago. And I joined Syngenta in 2006, so roughly 7 years ago. And in those 7 years, I get a chance to do various projects and work within Syngenta, a lot around food security. Of course, my first roles were in strategy and planning, then one role in cereals, which included wheat and barley. And barley was very interesting because it covered beer and pasta, which is very directly, of course, linked to food and food we all like. And now, just very recently, I'm heading up our seed care business. Now, food security. Why would you not care about food security? I personally, I'm married. I have 2 kids, and of course, now they all want to eat something. And it's not just them; it's the 9 billion people we're all going to have on our planet in the future. And hopefully, it's not only going to be more people, but it's going to be more people also economically in a better situation, and more prosperous people will require a better diet, and that will require more food. At the same point in time, we will have probably less land available. There's increasing urbanization, so less people working, and that just requires a continuous need for innovation in agriculture. And only if you can generate more yield on farms and other innovations in technology and in the area of food security, we'll be able to develop enough food for the world. And that's now why I'm passionate about this. That's why I enjoy working at Syngenta for the last 7 years, and hopefully a whole lot more. And I think that Thought for Food challenge that now Christine has set up with a lot of energy, it's been very fantastic to see how that has been developing, because that is a great means to tap into a lot of new and young and creative and out-of-the-box thinking and ideas to maybe get some even better and more creative ideas to help us with food security in the open and in our world. And that's something that I'm very curious for, and look forward to see a lot of the proposals coming our way.
Great.
Okay.
Matthew.
Hello, Christine and Carsten and all the other judges and people around the world. Nice to be with you today. Thanks for having me. So I'm one of the co-founders of YieldPop, which is a new internet service for farmers. We help people discover and exchange knowledge about products and practices in agriculture, and we just launched our first product a few months ago. So it's a real startup and a real challenge and really fun. So I know what you guys are thinking about and going through in terms of starting new ventures, whether they be for-profit or not-for-profit. I think food security is just it's kind of really easy to get excited about, because at the end of the day, it's about everything that we do every day, which is eat. And it's really just, what inspires me is we get to work on a big issue that impacts real people. So when I started my business, it was about trying to solve a really big, difficult problem, which is how do we feed more people using the same amount of resources that we have, or preferably less resources. And that kind of, for me, is a very meaningful mission. I'm not trying to build the next Pinterest, which allows you to save your favorite pair of shoes to the internet. There's a place for that, but why not work on something which is a little bit more meaningful and has an impact on humanity? So that's, I think, what inspires me, and I think probably what you guys get excited about too.
Great. Neve, over to you.
Thank you, Christine, Carson, and Patrick. So my name is Niamh. I'm originally from Ireland. I am currently living in the US, and being raised in Ireland, I'm actually going to launch straight into my passion for food. But being raised in Ireland, my parents and my family are all farmers, and my parents put a lot of emphasis on the importance of food, portion control, making sure that we didn't eat more than our bellies could consume, because our eyes were always bigger than our bellies. So, you know, I really didn't understand the emphasis that they were putting on food until recently when I moved to the US. And right now in the US, I moved here 3.5 years ago to work with a lot of early stage startups and technology companies and social enterprises to help them get their businesses off the ground. So I work on business partnerships and investor relations and hiring in those businesses. And I also create a lot of events around food by chance. I don't know if it's by chance or whether it's an impact that my parents have had on me from a very young age, but whether it's Sandbox events or another organization that I co-founded called So What's on Your Plate, or something that I planned in London when I lived there, which was a Twitter event based around food called Apari Tweet. Everything that in my life and the events that I organize has been around food. It's always bringing people together to share ideas and build relationships over dinner or brunch, whatever it might be. And so the importance of food in every impact of my life, I can't emphasize it enough, because it's a meaningful way to share dialogue and conversation. And the thought of food security and the impact that has on developing ideas and economies and breaking down barriers is just, it's incredible to think that a lot of people don't have access to this. And again, being in the US, I've realized that there doesn't tend to be always a lot of consideration for portion control or for sustainable ways of farming and producing food. So I'm very passionate about this project, and I'm very driven by technology, which is why I work with General Assembly and a lot of the tech entrepreneurs who work out of here. So my intro was very intertwined.
No, that's great. And I think everybody on our judging panel brings forward a different kind of perspective and area of expertise, which is great, because that's exactly the kind of projects we're going to get coming forward. I've had some glimpses of some of the proposals from some of the teams, and they really run the gamut, and it's going to be exciting to go through the evaluation of them. And that's a little bit what we're going to touch on today, is like, how are these projects going to be evaluated by you all? First, I'd like to just present a quick overview to remind all of the teams watching this how the process goes from here. On April 22nd, in your team platform on tffchallenge.com, you'll see that the project submission section will unlock. And in that section, you'll have the opportunity to upload some details about your big idea. So hopefully you've spent the past few weeks really developing that idea, going through the mission documents that Thought for Food has provided, and those mission documents call on you to, research and understand kind of the global issues surrounding food, to brainstorm big ideas, and we've provided some fun exercises to help you get to those breakthroughs, and then also to use social media in really radical and creative ways to help promote your ideas to the world. And so on April 22nd, we'll ask you then to submit the details of your project. So what is your idea? What are the objectives of your idea? Some basic insights about how your short, medium, and long-term plans will look, how you'll get funding. And of course, one of the big components about this is your creative pitch. So what is a creative pitch? It's basically how you're going to sell your idea to this group of judges and the world. And we're asking you to do that in the form of a video or a slideshow. And we're going to be sending you by emails some tips and tricks on the best ways to create a video that people will really watch and understand and will motivate people. And then the other thing to mention is part of the judging process, of course, is social media. And the purpose of this is to really just help show and demonstrate the power that social media has in this world to rally people to your cause and to create a community of believers. So it's a fun aspect of the challenge, but it's not ultimately how your big idea is going to be evaluated. As you heard on our last Google Hangout, this is not a popularity contest. So if you get 10,000 votes or 1,000 votes, that's great. If you get 10 votes, no problem. You still have a chance to be selected as a finalist. But the point is, we really do want to see energy and enthusiasm and creativity on how you can go out there and build a network of supporters from your own community and beyond. So the social media should be something that you have fun with. It should be used to impart information in new and interesting ways using these powerful tools that our generation has at our disposal. So, and by the way, be sure to consult Mission 4, which is the Conquer Social Media mission, for some case studies and insights on how you might think about using social media to promote your video. So now let's turn it over to the judges, because we want to talk with them about some personal insights they want to share regarding the judging criteria and how they view that in the competition. If you recall, our judging criteria for projects are around creating mass awareness, inciting social change, being built to last or having a sustainable element, and disrupting the status quo. So what do these mean? First, let's start with this. I mean, we're looking for breakthrough answers to a really, really big question, which is how do we feed 9 billion people? And as we've talked about before, this question can be taken in all kinds of different directions. It can be understood in all kinds of different ways, but that's exactly the point. We wanted to keep something that was very big so that could inspire a lot of creativity. But what kinds of things constitute a real breakthrough to you? And Karsten, maybe you can start, and then we'll turn it over to the other judges.
Okay, well, I'm happy to give you my views on this. So I would probably particularly look for maybe 3 things, right? The first one is I'm looking for this wow effect, right? So there must be something in this idea that now really excites me, that is something very simple, but at the same time very insightful, and something maybe I haven't thought about before, and in its simplicity and in its newness, or something that really makes me think, aha, wow, that's a fantastic idea. Why hasn't anyone else been able to come up with that? And I think the important part also behind this wow is to make sure this is something which is to some extent also fact based. It's not just based on a belief, but there's some proof points behind that why that is actually something that would work. Mm-hmm. I guess the second thing is, and that pretty much talks also to that mass awareness. If you have the wow factor, now you should get the attention of a broader audience. Mm-hmm. I think the second part would be I'd be looking for some diversity of inputs and maybe diversity of views that have been incorporated into this one idea. But I believe that some of the new breakthrough innovation particularly happens at interfaces between existing industries or existing viewpoints or existing sciences. So the more a team is able to leverage diversity either within the team or within the various perspectives they bring to this idea, I think the better it is, and the more chances of success it actually has. And then, last but not least, I think it's also important that that idea of thoughtful food and really focuses on food security. I'm less interested in something that tries to resolve some of the luxury problems we have in some parts of Europe and maybe North America. I think we need to really make sure we focus those ideas on the broader food security in the developing worlds, where people are now desperate for food and sometimes do not have enough food on a daily basis. And so the ideas need to be somehow able to touch the ones who need food security most. So judges, is that something that would also get your support, or what else could you bring to that?
Matthew.
So I definitely think those are all good things, and I would support that. For me, breakthrough is really about, I guess, identifying ideas which we think are going to have measurable impacts on major food challenges, and I think we can put a time frame on it, within 5 years. I think that the food industry or the agriculture industry is such a long-term horizon, but the population is growing and demand is growing, and you've seen that in the last few years. So we should be focused on tangible things that are going to have a major impact within 5 years. And I think, think about the areas that you're really tackling should be big pillars within the food security challenge. So it might be, for example, water. You're going to focus on the theme of water. You're going to think about how you're going to create an idea which is really going to have a big impact on that in the relatively short term, or smallholder productivity, or food waste, or one of those themes. So you're not going to be able to solve food security as a whole, but they're key parts of it which can be tackled. So I think for me, that's what would be breakthrough is something measurable on one of those major challenges within 5 years. Great.
What are you, Neve?
I agree with both of you. I would also say, try and focus on the less gimmicky ideas and think about ways that that you can change people's lives in a way that's long term, and ideas that are integrating into people's lives already, that there isn't a lot of change, there isn't a lot of effort that needs to be put into place for them to make this change happen, but instead, it's sort of an aha moment. It's one of those ideas or practices that doesn't require a lot of effort, but is something that can happen naturally in their day-to-day lives. If you try and change people's behavior drastically, it might be quite difficult to actually get it to catch on and to get that virality and that engagement factor. So if you think about the innovation around solving a problem that people can really be involved in, I think that's important. And through that, there'll be small baby steps over time that can lead to long-term development and ultimately changing a person's behavior in a drastic way. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think you guys all touched on key elements that we really tried to tackle in the challenge design. We asked teams to involve different disciplines of areas of study to really approach this from a multidisciplinary perspective. I think, Neve, what you just touched upon around how do you incite social change through actual, behavior change that people can take in simple steps, I think is a very important aspect. And Matthew, your point around making a tangible impact over a period of time is something that I think touches upon the judging criteria around being built to last. And so I wanted to ask you guys around that criteria about creating mass awareness. What does that mean to you? And what role does social media play there? Do you have any tips for the teams?
We go reversely now.
Okay, me.
Okay, perfect. Social media is a very interesting platform for everybody to engage in, and not everybody understands how to master it, and that's okay. Choosing the right platforms that will communicate the message is incredibly important. You don't necessarily always have to be tweeting, Facebooking, Instagramming, Vining, everything, but choosing the ones that are most relevant to your concept and your idea is important, first of all, so relevance in that sense. And it's not always about who's the noisiest, but who is making the most credible points, and the creativity around the message that you're delivering is important to think about. So it's not necessarily about reach, but making sure that your message is being shared in the right way. I think those points are incredibly important to focus on.
Can you mention, it sounds like your initiative, Après Tweet, was something that integrated a cause with a social media element. Maybe you could explain a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So that was an event that I co-organized in London, and it was based around the concept of bringing people that we had met on Twitter offline to meet in person and to share conversations. It was very much a networking event, and it was very early stage in the London tech community at the very beginning of it about 5 years ago. So that we had about 100 people. We approached local restaurants, and it was also the time of recession and not many people were eating out, so we approached Italian restaurants and went to them with this idea of aperitivo, which is an Italian tradition in Milan. It's an amazing Italian tradition where you it's like happy hour. you pay for your drinks, but the food is supplied. And we brought them 100 people at least to their venue one Thursday of a month. And there we brought the conversations that we were all sharing online, offline. And it was very much around technology-based conversations, simply because the early adopters for Twitter were all based in tech already. So yeah. I mean, I think the important thing to note as well is I focus a lot of my time on building community, and that offline element is incredibly important in driving social change and reaching an engagement level and a personal level with people that sometimes the online can't relay. So figuring out ways to integrate both simultaneously is important.
Cool. Matthew, what about you? Any insights on this big question?
Yeah, so I think everybody would say that a good idea has mass appeal. For me, the saying that your friends are going to talk about it and it's going to get huge is not enough. I think there's really three things. First of all, how are people going to discover your idea? So what is the way in which your idea is going to propagate? Are they going to find you on Google searches? Are you going to tweet about it and get followers? What's your method for being found and spreading the word? Then the second thing is, if someone hears about it once, if Carsten comes and looks at it once and then he never comes back, or he doesn't want to buy my product or use my product or whatever it might be, it's basically worthless. So what's the way in which people get excited? Why will they come back and use it again? And then I think the third thing is everybody wants to grow virally through social media and on the internet, but why would they do that? Why are they going to tell their friends about it? What's the incentive for it? And so it really comes down to those three things. How do they discover you? Why are they going to engage with you? And why are they going to talk about you?
That's great.
And maybe a slightly different spin to take on mass awareness is to think about scalability. And I think when we want to do something and create something around food security, we at Syngenta, we always talk about scalability, because in the end, food security is something that needs to arrive in a very tangible way at people. And therefore now it's the one element we talked about, getting energy and passion behind an idea via mass media and social media. That's clearly this good starting point. But I think the other thing I'd be looking for in any of these ideas, is it also scalable, and can it create that mass, not just awareness, but that mass touching of many, many individuals, of the people who need food security. And here we're talking about millions and billions of people in the world. And so does it have these elements of scalability that we can really bring it to bring food security to the ones who need it? Great.
Okay, and then one last question around the judging criteria. Disrupting the status quo. I mean, that's kind of a mantra of Thought for Food. We actually say uprooting the status quo to bring in that agriculture element. But what does that mean? That's a big ask. And so what advice do you give teams about how to do this? Matthew, maybe you can kickstart this one.
Well, I think it's always helpful here to really start with a blank piece of paper and imagine the world as it should be, or how you think it should be, and not necessarily think about how it is and how do I tinker at the edges. So just because someone says, oh, well, it's always that way, don't always accept that. And there will be reasons why it's that way, but think about why, how it came to be and what you could do differently. So, for example, people always say that supply chains in vegetables have to be long, and they travel, because it's driven by cost, and it's got to go from southern Spain to supermarkets in the UK. Well, what are alternative realities if you want to eat local food? How would it work, and what could you dream up to tackle some of the problems with that, like the cost of food, for example? So I think, imagine the world as you want it to be, not necessarily just tinkering with it as it is.
Great advice. Carsten, do you have anything else?
I think that the picture you described, Matthew, is the right one, and so I have nothing to add to that view. I think in terms of how to approach this, now how to maximize the chances of having something that is able to disrupt the status quo, is a bit back to the point about diversity that I mentioned earlier. So I think now the chances of really getting something disruptive is dependent on how diverse your team is, how diverse the viewpoints you are, how much you think out of the box and get different perspectives together. I think then it just can help to increase the chances of actually getting there.
Right.
And then go onto the field and visit some farmers who are the first step of the food security. That's also very insightful. So that would be another advice to the teams for some inspiration.
Great. Just to your points, actually, I would also add, I think it's important to look at other business models also and other industries. There's a lot of innovation happening all over the world, all around us in a variety of industries. We've seen the whole era of flash sales and the Groupons of the world, and now we're moving into the more subscription-based business models and things like this. And now we're seeing a lot of other businesses and industries looking towards these new business models in tech and in education as well. So looking at other industries and business models is another way for you to figure out how can the status quo be disrupted, and how has it been disrupted, and the measures that those industries have taken, and where the lines of communication have been broken down to make those relevant changes.
Absolutely. This is all great food for thought for food. So before we close this session, are there any last pieces of advice that you would like to give the participating teams as they gear up to finalize their project proposals and submit them to you for evaluation?
Well, have fun while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would also add, share your idea with as many people as possible, because once you start talking about that idea and vocalizing it, it's going to gain legs, and you're going to get more input from the people around you and from a variety of different mindsets. So that will help you develop it further in your mind and among the people that are around you.
Great.
And my advice is very similar. I think get out of the building. You can't learn anything sitting behind your desk, and so you've got to get out there and talk to your customers and really understand what the problem is, and then figure out how to solve it.
Yeah.
Great. You guys, I feel so inspired. I'm sure all of our teams will too, having heard these great perspectives and insights. So to all of our teams out there, there's still a few weeks ahead. April 22nd, the project submission platform unlocks. So we look forward to seeing your videos or slideshows. Public voting begins on May 1st, and the winners will be announced on May 20th. And so, we look forward to seeing what you come up with. I'm sure the judges share this excitement.
Can't wait.
Yay! So have fun, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you for participating, and best of luck from all of us at Thought for Food. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.